All right, so how do we actually bridge the gap between where our skills are right now and where we want them to be? Today in this explainer, we're diving into 5 really powerful tips to improve your skills. Whether you're trying to learn a new language, pick up the guitar, or completely pivot into a brand new career, the underlying psychology of how we actually acquire skills remains exactly the same. Let's unpack how you can apply this to your own life.
I want you to keep this question in the back of your mind as we go. Can daily effort actually beat natural talent? It's the classic showdown, right? The gifted prodigy versus the gritty underdog. We so often look at highly successful people and just assume they were born with this silver spoon of talent. But as we explore today's story, let's challenge that assumption and see if consistent, unrelenting effort might actually be the ultimate trump card.
To figure this out, let's look at a guy named Ethan. He's the ultimate everyman. Ethan is 20, living in a small town in Texas, and he had this massive dream of becoming a successful software engineer. Now, he doesn't have a fancy state-of-the-art tech setup. He doesn't have an uncle in Silicon Valley who can just hand his resume to a hiring manager. What he does have is ambition. He represents that starting line so many of us know all too well, having the big dream, but seemingly lacking the resources to make it happen.
Well, everything kind of shifted for him when he bumped into an older mentor at the local library. The guy gave him this incredibly simple but totally game-changing piece of advice. He told Ethan, skills are built every day, not in one day. When you look at a massive goal, like becoming a software engineer from scratch, the sheer scale of it can be paralyzing. But this mentor completely shifted Ethan's perspective, taking the focus off that intimidating finish line and putting it squarely on the daily process. That actually brings us right to tip number 1. Practice every day. I know, it sounds super obvious, doesn't it? But honestly, how often do we fall into the trap of doing these massive, exhausting cram sessions on a Sunday afternoon instead of building a steady, daily rhythm? Building a highly technical skill requires that constant momentum to actually forge lasting muscle memory and rewire your neural pathways.
And here is the kicker for Ethan. It was just 1 hour. That's it. He didn't quit his life and lock himself in a basement for 10 hours a day. He just made that one single hour non-negotiable every single day. By doing that, he harnessed the power of compounding interest, but for his brain. It's the sheer repetitive force of showing up every 24 hours that signals to your mind, hey, we need to adapt and learn this.
Because here's the thing, consistency totally levels the playing field. When you put unpracticed talent up against consistent practice, the practice is going to win out eventually. If someone is naturally a coding genius but only works when they feel inspired, and you put them against Ethan, who is putting in his 1 hour every single day without fail, Ethan is going to run circles around them in the long run. It's the ultimate equalizer.
All right, tip number 2, learn from your mistakes. This builds perfectly on that daily foundation because, look, if you're practicing something new every single day, you are absolutely going to mess up. You're going to write bad code, you're going to break things, and you're going to hit a wall. The secret isn't avoiding those mistakes. It's all about how you respond to them.
Every single mistake teaches a valuable lesson. When Ethan's early coding projects crashed and burned, and they definitely did, he didn't just throw his hands up and quit. A bug in his code wasn't a failure, it was literal data. It was a giant neon sign pointing exactly to what he needed to focus on next. Every mistake became a personalized curriculum targeting his exact weaknesses. Which smoothly brings us to tip number 3, read and keep learning. Fixing mistakes is great, but it's reactive, right? This step is all about being proactive. You can't just rely on trial and error alone. You have to actively seek out new information to expand your horizons and find better methods that you might never have stumbled upon by yourself. So Ethan put together this continuous learning toolkit for himself. We're talking books to get that deep foundational knowledge, educational videos to visually break down those really complex concepts, and getting advice from experienced professionals to give him real-world context. By combining all 3, he wasn't just learning how to type out code. He was learning how actual software engineers think. And speaking of professionals, that leads right into tip 4, find good mentors. Trying to go it completely alone will honestly only get you so far. Books and videos are amazing, but they can't look at your specific project and tell you where you are going wrong. Ethan realized he needed a community, so he joined a local coding group to get honest guidance and feedback from people further along the path. Because learning from people who have already succeeded, it literally saves you time. Mentorship is the ultimate shortcut. Why on earth would you spend weeks banging your head against a wall trying to solve a problem when someone who has already walked that path could point out the solution in 5 minutes? They provide a map of the minefield, which is invaluable.
Finally, we hit tip number 5, and this one is the internal engine that keeps the whole operation running. Believe in yourself. And let's be real, this is probably the hardest one. When you're 20 years old, living in a small town, trying to break into a fiercely competitive global tech industry, people are going to doubt you. And that skepticism can so easily seep into your own mindset.
But confidence gives you the courage to keep improving. Ethan just kept moving forward because he fundamentally believed in his dream. You absolutely have to have that core self-belief to wake up and do your daily hour when you're exhausted, when your code keeps breaking, and when the finish line feels like it's a million miles away.
So how long did this take? 2 years. It took precisely 2 years of this steady, unbroken grind for Ethan to finally land a job at a tech company in the US. That is 24 months of practicing 1 hour a day, learning from errors, absorbing new material, seeking mentorship, and just believing he could do it. No viral overnight success, just quiet, relentless dedication to the process.
When you look back at his timeline, it is so clear that this success wasn't just a stroke of luck. It started with a dream, sure, but then that library meeting acted as a catalyst. Then came the daily practice, the daily grind, and finally, the concrete result of the job offer. It's a deliberate, predictable chain of cause and effect. Achieving your goals is a system.
So here is the operational blueprint one more time. Consistent practice, learning from your mistakes, finding mentors, staying curious, and believing in yourself. These are not just empty motivational buzzwords. This is literally the exact mechanical blueprint for taking yourself from zero experience to professional mastery, no matter what skill you're trying to build.
I want to wrap up this explainer and leave you with this one provocative question to chew on. If you improve just a little bit every single day, how will your future change? Think about your own big goals. Where do you want to be 2 years from now? If Ethan can do it with just 1 hour a day from a small town in Texas, what is truly stopping you? Get out there and put in the effort.